This past May, my husband and I celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. We decided to do something really special, which was to go back to San Francisco, which was where we got engaged 26 years ago. This is us on our porch around that time. We were in Montclair, New Jersey, actually, so it was a big voyage. I began to do what I always do when I plan a trip. I jumped on the internet and started researching, kind of an obsessive travel researcher. I learned more about San Francisco than probably a lot of San Franciscans. 26 years ago, we couldn't do this, you know. I don't even think we had a place to stay when we went out there when we were in our 20s. I researched the neighborhoods of San Francisco, which was really important for me because I wanted to find the perfect place to stay. I was sort of judging it by ambiance and demographics and weather, because the weather is different in different neighborhoods of San Francisco. I was also thinking about nightlife and stuff to do in restaurants, and public transportation was important. We weren't going to have a car. I actually found myself memorizing the transit system of San Francisco before I got there. I also memorized the ferry routes and the trolleys. You know, I downloaded an app that told me when the buses would arrive. But the big thing I did, because I'm a foodie, is I researched all the food. I made a list of all the restaurants I wanted to go to, including Zuni Cafe and Nopalito and all sorts of famous San Francisco restaurants. I got to the point where I could definitely tell you where the best ice cream in San Francisco is, which is the Mission. What I began to realize about this is I've been curating my life. I've been planning everything down to the last meal, down to the time the bus would arrive, and not just on a trip, although I'm probably the worst at doing this with travel, but I've really become such a planner that I've maybe lost all chances of spontaneity for myself. The thing is, I am a curator. I'm the director of the Lane series, so I spend my life actually, you know, listening to music and trying to choose the best quality musical experience for our audience here in Burlington. I'm one of those people that listens to, you know, 48 string quartets, so I can bring the one in any given year that's the most suited to our audience. So I asked myself, why am I doing this? Is it my temperament? Is it technology? Is the fact that I actually can do it, you know, because of the technology? Is it FOMO, fear of missing out? Is it fear of mediocrity, like God forbid I'd eat a bad ice cream cone? You know, is it kids, how you get like control freakish when you have kids? Or is it age? This is a picture of my oldest son's friend, Runa. He's from Denmark. He's currently hitchhiking from Alaska to the East Coast and back again. And I love this picture because it sort of sums up youthful exuberance and the joy of travel and the road. That's a real picture of him. One thing that's definitely going to happen to Runa is he's going to get lost. And I started thinking, you know, like we never get lost anymore. We have the GPS and it tells us exactly where to go. We just sort of listen to the voice and it takes us there. It's kind of like when your kids first start driving and you realize they have no idea where anything is. I think my son didn't know how to get from Richmond to Essex when he first started driving. But what all this does is it takes away the art of the StumbleUpon, which is, of course, one of the great joys of travel. It made me think about how most of my life as a traveler was really spent stumbling upon. Those are the things I remember about travel. Like I remember running out of gas in Scotland and ending up hitchhiking to a Tibetan monastery in Scotland where I ended up thinking I had been kidnapped by Nazis because I didn't realize that the Nazis stole the swastika from the Tibetans. The room was filled with swastikas and it was very frightening. Or the time that I once passed out because I was dehydrated in southern France. By the way, I was dehydrated because it was 1982 and it was actually impossible to buy a bottle of water anywhere. And I heard this music coming from this ruined chateau and I sort of came to and listened to the music and found out later it was Keith Jarrett. He was warming up for a concert that night. Or the time I was 17 years old and I got tired of the rich people I was with in Palm Beach, so I walked out of the apartment down the intercoastal waterway and actually hitched a ride on this sailboat. That's me. Amazing, isn't it? I was 17 years old. Of course, you wouldn't want your daughter to do that now, but I did spend the day and evening with complete strangers on this boat. So my husband and I decided that we would spend a day, at least one, in San Francisco where we left the cell phone on the table. We would not have GPS. We would not have Google Maps. We would not have the ability to find out where the best restaurant in the neighborhood was. We would just go exploring and see what happened and see what we could stumble upon. We wanted to have an authentic experience. That's a word that like arty people and hipsters use a lot, so I thought I better look it up, and it's a pretty good definition. Although I have to say, I like the second definition a lot too, because what I was trying to do, of course, was, hit a high note on this trip and stumble upon something wonderful. So we rented bikes and we rode off towards the Golden Gate Bridge. We had actually bought a ticket that was, with our bike rental, you could ride over the bridge and then they sold you a ferry ticket back from Sausalito. But when we got to the top of the bridge, we realized we don't really want to ride over the bridge. It was very windy and the views were better from off the bridge. So we just rode around neighborhoods and we passed this cafe and my husband said, "Hey, I'm hungry, let's stop." And so we stopped and we had an uncurated meal at the Velo Rouge Cafe. I think it was quiche and salad and it was perfectly good, and we talked to locals and they pointed us in the direction of Golden Gate Park, and we rode our bikes up a hill and down a hill and into Golden Gate Park, where we came upon this beautiful and extraordinary building, which is the DeYoung Museum, as many of you know, one of the great American museums. And we thought, since we were being spontaneous, well, heck, let's just go in the DeYoung Museum and see what's happening, even though that was planned for a potential rainy day, but we decided to do it on this beautiful day. And when we got there, we found a fellow traveler. We were thrilled to discover that the girl with the pearl earring was visiting from The Hague, just like we were visiting from Vermont. And she was real and authentic and bona fide, and she was there and we were there, and she was beautiful and we stumbled upon her. Thank you.